What's up guys, it's Bastian here coming at you with another Traveller customizable card game deck opening. We are covering the Subsidized Merchant deck today. You will have seen me cover the Empress Morava in the past, and this is the other basic ship deck that didn't come in the starter box. So let's crack open this guy. What we got here is our trusty scissors, and I have just trained the box a little bit to open a little bit more easily, because these boxes are a bit of a pain to open, but that's also good for security reasons. So what you get in the box is the usual sort of how to start quick guide, which is this one here. Just the basic setup for the game, the different phases, and then on the other side you've got some of the explanations as well: exert, ready, armor, bankruptcy, etc, etc. The other information pamphlet is about the anatomy of the cards, ship card, adventure card, crew card, connections, and on the other side you got the upgrades, gear, event, and heroic cards. Also shows you the skill levels and what the skills name, the game concept icons. So it explains all the pictograms that are on the cards themselves. But what we're really interested in, of course, is the subsidized merchant. Now, first of all, if we just look at the ship itself, we see a ship that is, of course, very slow at taking initiative. It's only got a speed of 1. It can only jump 1 per cost. No firepower, but it does have a defense of 1. The tonnage of 400 is actually really good, and there's a specific card in this deck that you can only use with Subsidized Merchant, which really takes advantage of that 400 tonnage. And of course we get 3 copies of an advanced cargo slash passenger capability token every one of our resource phases, which is quite fantastic actually. It allows you to solve many adventures relatively easily. Now, due to the speed and the initiative and the jump power of the ship, we do get a very high amount of crew number that is permitted on the ship. We actually can have up to 5 crew, but when it comes to the upgrades, we are seeing only 1 available spot for computer related ship upgrades, 1 hard point. We get 2 hull, and we got 4 for the internal, but again that specific ship upgrade is going to take up a big chunk of that 4 in our internal spot. Besides this, any round in which you take damage during piracy, you lose 1 victory point. At the end of any round in which you gain 5 or more victory points, you replenish 2. Replenish 2 means you take 2 cards from your discard pile and put them back at the bottom of your deck. So it actually allows you to heal in a way, because of course remember, if you run out of cards in your deck and your hand, you go bankrupt. So let's crack open this box. Well, really the box has been cracked open. Let's just open up the plastic seal. These are very tightly wrapped. This one's actually slightly easier. There was a slight loose bit here. That's what I always go for. Because the ships are at the front, it's very easy to damage the side of the card, so I would definitely advise anybody and everybody to be very, very cautious and use a knife or a pair of scissors to get into these packs of Traveller cards. Unfortunately, we do see a bit of a bashing on the front. I don't know how well I can show this to you guys. There you go, you should see that now. So here by my thumb, you already can see it was a bit beat up, and a little bit there, and the top corner as well. You can see it's a bit munched up. It would have been really useful if we would have perhaps gotten the cards put in like that. I think that would still have looked amazing, and I don't really care that much about the back of the card being damaged, but the front is what you're going to be looking at all the time, and if that's damaged, That doesn't bode well for the game experience. However, it is what it is. It's still a cracking little ship. So I'm going to put this ship here just so I can give you guys a good look of it. And if you guys want to go through specifically the adventure deck and the complications, I'm going to show them. You get 2 copies of each. You can pause the video to have a look through, but of course these will be designed in order for you to be able to solve these relatively easily. So as I'm showing it, you should be able to see the merchant ship as well. And we're only gonna go through the first 10 because then we have the same on repeat. And there's the next 10. Of course, of each adventure slash complication card, you can only have 2, maximum of 2 copies in your adventure deck, and your adventure deck cannot exceed, well, it has to be exactly 20 cards. With this out of the way, let's look at the meat of the deck. And first, we look at our connections. So we got Biddable Official. It's a 2-cost connection where basically whenever an opponent plays an interrupt, add a corruption counter on this card. You can also pay 1 at any time you want and add a corruption counter on this card, but it is only usable after you have played an event. And as a reaction, you can tap this, remove 3 corruption counters, and you can actually cancel an event. It's a really powerful card, but unfortunately, if your opponent does see it coming, they will be able to kind of bait out the cancel effect and then play the actual event they would want to play. Nevertheless, it's still a very powerful card, and I could totally see this being used with Beowulf specifically. Beowulf does allow you to have multiple connections of the same type, so you could have 2 connections that are an ally like this one, 2 locale or 2 organization connections as well. And as far as I understand, connections are not unique, unlike the crew members. I'm currently waiting for a response from Horizon Games to basically confirm or deny this. But if that is true, then you could have 2 biddable officials in play if you're running a Beowulf ship, which means you would have 2 potentials for canceling a particular event. It's just a deck building sort of decision to make. If you have a card out like this, it's a really cracking card. It is also unsavory, which means it's easy to search with a particular connection. Moving on, we got a Drifting Depot. Remove 2 depot counters, add any basic capability token to your resource pool. A basic capability token is, for example, like that for cargo, and the advanced ones are the ones that is split. And then you can pay a cargo token and you can add a depot counter to this card. So basically, whenever you have access to an access cargo token you don't use up in a particular resolution phase, you can turn it into a depot counter, so you can kind of return them, you can kind of savor them a bit. We have the, I'm not going to attempt that, I'm just going to say the Bonding Office. It's a pretty nifty card, this one. After you resolve an adventure, add a leverage counter to this card. For each leverage counter, other captains must pay 1 credit during their ready phase. Any captain may pay 4 to jettison this card, and you can pay 2 at any point you want. After an opposing captain completes an adventure, add a leverage counter to this card. It is quite the card. You have to deal with this very early, and indeed the best avenue to take is to immediately pay the 4 to jettison this card. The longer you leave it in play, the more it's going to cost you, and you will be really upset that you didn't pay that for to get rid of it. Moving on, we got the restricted tech vendor. After you gain a victory point or complete a after you gain a victory point for completing a side quest, you replenish one. So again, same story. You can take a card, I believe it's either the top card or the bottom card from your discard pile, and you can put it at the bottom of your deck. So again, it's just really healing. To be fair, it's keeping your deck nice and big in card size, so you got plenty of health and plenty of money. And then our final connection is the Lucky Star. This is trifling, which means it does not count towards the maximum amount of locale connections you have in play. And as a reaction, you can tap it before expanding a card from the top of your captain's deck. Declare a credit number. If the card shares the credit number, apply the card's credit number and move it to your hand, otherwise reduce the card's credit number to 0. So it's a bit of a gambling card, really. It can be interesting to explore the card, see what can be done with it. Moving on to our crew, we have Professor Isaac's Cybernetics. Now I'm just having a quick look here, and yeah, just as I feared, this deck doesn't actually have any cybernetic cards in it. Now you still get a trained level science and a trained level underworld skill here, but really that cybernetic gear you procure that would cost you 1 less is not utilized in this deck at all. And also, to be fair, there's only 2 cybernetic gear that actually cost credit, but if you run those 2, I would definitely highly recommend to run Professor Isaacs. Moving on, we have Mahmoud Senik. We get some extremely useful skills here. We get an expert level tech, and we get an expert level underworld skill token from Mahmoud. Of course, the drawback is that heroic events cost Mahmoud an additional 1, but realistically, for what you get for your investment is amazing. We have Bhavana Patil. You gain 1 victory point after resolving a side quest that requires admin skills, and she has expert level admin as well, so kind of the synergy is immediately there. Moving on, we got Dr. Peter L.S. Trevor, xenobiologist, a human with an expert level in science. And once per turn, you can pay 1, copy the crew abilities of target non-human crew members until the end of the round. This could be interesting depending on what your opponent's playing, but you could also definitely take advantage of this if you have some particularly important non-human crew members in your deck. We got Dwight Kane. Dwight is invulnerable to opponent's crew abilities, and that on a 0 cost character is always great, and you get a train level social skill as well. So I think every card that doesn't cost you anything is at least worth considering. Every card that costs nothing means you don't have to obviously lose cards from your deck or your hand, so that's definitely worth exploring. Next we got Fatima Nuri, train level underworld skill. While Fatima is exerted, your other crew members gain invulnerable to opponent's crew abilities and heroic actions unless the opposing crew member has admin or underworld. And in the action phase, you can tap her and gain a trained level underworld skill until the end of the round. That is really useful. Both effects are really good. Very, very powerful, actually. We got Liam AI Simmons with an expert level in tech. In the action phase, once per turn, you can jettison a gear or a ship upgrade and return target gear or ship upgrade card from your discard pile to hand. So just allows you to fish back stuff that will have gone into your discard. We have Tanala Vadari, trained level medical. Another freebie, and in the ready phase, each crew member restores 1 health. This is really good if you're trying to keep your crew members around for a longer period of time, and again, it's a 0 cost, so it's not bad at all. Next up, we got Teodoro Weinstein, as the Germans say, Teodoro Weinstein, and he comes with trained level in Starship Operations, and in the action phase you can tap him and gain a trained level social until the end of the round. Moving on, we got Walter Glenn in retirement, expert level in combat. While Walter is ready, he's invulnerable to opponent's wounding effects. Fantastic. And in the action phase, you can tap him, pay 1, target captain chooses one of their crew members, and you inflict 2 damage on the chosen crew member. Very powerful card. On the repeat, we get another copy of Mahmoud Senik, another copy of Bhavana Patil, another Dr. Trevor, another Fatima, another AI, another Weinstein, and another Walter Glenn. Moving on, we're going to look at the event cards, and we start with Anonymous Insertion. It's a 1-cost event. You can use it in the resolution phase to remove from play target transport complication. Could be good. Depends how you build your deck. Depends what sort of complications you get from your opponent. Our second event here is Catastrophic Overbooking. In the resolution phase until the end of the round, target after a captain resolves a complication or an adventure that requires cargo or passenger. Capability is that captain chooses an opponent and gives that opponent 1 victory point. It can be quite nasty. It can definitely be a good source of getting additional victory points. The deck is a little bit all the way around. There were a few gear cards here, but I'm just going to carry on with the other events. We got Crash Course. Target a crew member and choose a skill. Target crew member gains 1 level of the chosen skill until the end of the phase. So you can get a train level of something, or you can boost up a train level into an expert level. We got On the Lam. It's a 0-cost event. In the adventure phase, each captain jettisons an unsavory crew member or gains an infamy token. We got Overextended. Target an adventure with a number of complications equal to the maximum allowed complication slots. Remove 1 attached complication from the target. Next up, we got Twists and Turns. Action phase, remove from play a complication attached to target adventure. Add the top card of your adventure deck without looking at it as a complication to the target. Could be a bit of a shuffle around. And then we saw the Anonymous Insertion. We saw the Catastrophic Overbooking. We got another copy of Overextended and another copy of Twists and Turns. Let's now have a look at the gear cards. We got an Enviro Safe Vac suit. Actually, we get 2 of this one, and it's a fantastic suit actually. It does cost 2, but when you attach it to a crew member, your crew member gains armor 1 and invulnerable to hindrances, which is very powerful indeed. Xeno Poison is one of my favorite hindrance gear cards. The Enviro Safe Vac would just not allow your opponent to attach that. We do get 1 Babel TL11 Translator. Attached crew member gains a trained level of social, and in the action phase you can use this and jettison it, and it resolves you a complication that requires social. And then one of my favorite weapons in the game, this is the first two copies I see is a TL-13 CLC laser rifle. Costs 3, but it's fantastic. It has armor piercing 2, so it basically disregards any armor that a particular crew member would have, for example from a vac suit, because this would add armor 1, but this would say, well, up to armor 2, it disregards it. And in the action phase you can use it, pay 1, inflict 2 damage on target crew member. Fantastic card indeed. Let's look at our heroic action cards. We got Sabotage, which is for tech guys, and in the action phase, train level will allow you to target a ship and tap it and tap all of its upgrades. An expert level will allow you to, as above, and jettison target ship upgrade card attached to that ship. We got a police raid action phase for an admin person. You can inflict 1 wound on target crew member, tap it, then attach this card to the target as a hindrance. Attached crew member gains unsavory. And for expert level as above, and then inflict 1 damage on any number of target unsavory crew members. So it will basically allow you to deal an extra damage on that one. We get a copy of Bodyguarding. Bodyguarding can be used in the action phase, as is often the case for these heroic actions. This one is for combat skilled personnel. On a train level, your other crew members have concealed 2 against wounding effects until the end of the round, and on expert level, attach this card to target crew member which cannot be this acting crew member, and the attached crew member gains concealed 2. We get Snickers and Slanders. Again, this is for social skills. Train level, target any number of captains, look at those captains' hands, then choose and discard 1 card from each hand. And for expert level as above, and any captain who discards a crew member loses 1 victory point. This is actually not the first heroic action that actually does a bit of a hand control, so there could be some level of hand control theme in the game as well. And then we get a second copy of Sabotage, Police Raid, Bodyguarding, and Snickers and Slanders. And then finally we get a whole bunch of ship upgrades, so let's jump into those real quick. We got Crew Compartment, adds you an additional crew member slot, that's always welcome. Defensive Mines is absolutely brilliant. While you're defending, you get +2 firepower. We got Drop Fuel Tanks. In the adventure phase, you can jettison this card and reduce the distance on target adventure to 0 until the end of the phase, which is really welcome for a ship that only has a jump capability of 1. We have Efficiency Diagnostic. In the resolution phase, you can tap it and you pay 2 capability tokens, gain a victory point, only usable after resolving an adventure. What's really great about this is if you resolve an adventure that only requires you to use 1 capability token, the other 2 doesn't go to waste, you actually convert those into more victory points. It's just fantastic. We got Improvised Defenses. In the resource phase, once per turn, paying with any capability token, you get +2 defense until the end of the round. Fantastic, particularly again against piracy. We get an Infirmary. In the ready phase, you restore 2 wounds distributed between 1 or more of your crew members. If you control a medical crew member, you may restore 1 additional wound or health, or remove a hindrance attached to 1 of your crew members. This is really important for ships like this one, where you're going to be running with a bunch of crew members and you really want to make sure that they stick around. This is the big card I was talking about at the beginning of the video, Subsidized Merchant Ship only. It requires 3 slots for your internal slot for the ship. You may procure this card during the resolution phase. Absolutely fantastic effect, that one. And tapping it, paying 2, you actually get +4 firepower until the end of the current action. Fantastic. Really, really, really powerful. No wonder it's limited only to subsidized merchants. Only if this would be accessible to any ship. It could be a game-breaking card, particularly for piracy decks. We also see a sensor drone controller A very expensive card, a cost of 4. But in the adventure phase, once per turn, you may look at an unrevealed complication attached to an adventure with a military or a survey requirement that you are pursuing. And in the resource phase, you can tap it, pay 2, and add an advanced military/survey token to your resource pool. And then the last card is Streamlining Treatment. The second time we actually see the Morava, and I think this is the first time we see the Morava on a card that's not the actual ship card. And it gains you +1 speed, and as a reaction you can tap it and jettison it and gain +1 defense until the end of the round. And we get an extra copy of Crew Compartment, drop fuel tanks, efficiency diagnostics, infirmary, Q-ship conversion, and streamlining treatment. Guys, I hope you really enjoyed this little unboxing video, and I've gone through the cards. I hope the lingo is now perhaps starting to sink in a little bit more. If you do get yourself any one of the 4 ship decks, or you get yourself a 2-player starter set, you will get the basic rules. For the ship decks, you will get the basic rules, exactly the same ones as I've shown you here. If you get the 2-player starter, you will get the entire rules booklet. That might be preferable if you don't have a friend who already has that, and you want to read a little bit more up on the rules. But I think you can also find the rulebook as a PDF on the Traveller CCG website. So check it out there. And again, this was the subsidized merchant deck for today's video. Up until next time, guys, Bastian signing out. Peace.